So we couldn't have been more thrilled than to open our Riyadh office last week. We've been officially on the ground in the region for around about 2 years, initially in the UAE. It's been a long time in the making, I would say. Whenever we go into a new region, there's really two criteria that are very important to us. Firstly, you want to see that there's a whole bunch of investable deal flow. And secondly, you want to make sure you've got the right team to tackle that opportunity. And that formula is what we applied when we first entered the US 14 years ago when we started the firm. We subsequently went into Asia, again applied the same formula, same when we went into Europe. And so over the last 15 years from a standing start, we've built Stonepeak into the largest privately held infrastructure investment firm in the world at $73 billion worth of equity value. That same formula is exactly what we've applied to this region. And so we see increasing deal flow in the region. I see a lot of parallels, in fact, between what's going on in the kingdom and the GCC more broadly relative to what we saw when we went into Asia. You've got the similarity of large population bases and a very quickly growing economy. And what that tends to do is it tends to lend the opportunity to start new businesses and to create assets and create businesses. It's all well and good to invest in existing operating businesses, but the barriers to entry to do that are not that high. If you can create your own business, that is something that is much more difficult to do. And so when we pulled our team together for the GCC opportunity, that's the skill set we really lent on. We wanted a team who had a lot of experience in building businesses from scratch. It's been a long time in the making, as I mentioned. We first started to hire for the region about half a dozen years ago. The team we pulled together has been investing in infrastructure in the region since 2006. They've been building schools, industrial parks, solar and battery facilities. And so it's a team we think is really well suited to the opportunity in the region. And we think all of the sectors we cover will throw up opportunity here. So we see a lot of opportunity in renewables, particularly battery and solar. There'll be a lot of digital opportunity, of course. And then there's a lot of transport and logistics opportunities, both in terms of mega projects, but also in terms of a lot of smaller projects as well. And just while I'm on the topic, I'm really thrilled to announce that just yesterday, we entered into our first major partnership in the region. And so we signed up a joint venture with the Arab Energy Fund that will aim to invest $1 billion, both in the kingdom and across the GCC more broadly, over the coming couple of years. So they are an absolutely tremendous partner. We are thrilled to have inked that deal. We'll announce that officially next week. But I'm really excited, Dan, to announce that to you and your viewers here this morning.
Well, Michael, can you expand on that transaction for me? What is it going to mean for Stonepeak, and what is the opportunity that it opens up more broadly?
Absolutely. So the Arab Energy Fund is a partnership between the GCC countries to catalyse energy and energy-related investment across the region, both from an equity standpoint and from a debt standpoint as well. We couldn't want for a more formidable partner in the region. And so just for example, things like batteries, solar facilities, district cooling, there's some of the, just as examples, some of the types of assets that we'll be looking to create and pull together here in the region.
And as you've been discussing, you have appointed senior leadership in Riyadh, including Steve Chobo, quite well respected in the region, of course, the former Australian diplomat who really sits at this intersection of deal flow and diplomacy. How soon before you will be deploying additional capital into the kingdom? You've already tied together one deal here. What is the next phase of growth going to look like?
I'm thrilled to have Steve as a key part of the team over here. One, I think, very important characteristic of this region versus, say, others we were in is the government involvement and the importance of government in this region. And so I think a lot of what we will do will to some degree be in partnership with government. And so having Steve, who is the Trade and Investment Minister for Australia, and all the government experience that that brings, I think that's a really important component of our team over here. We've been on the ground here now for a while. We've been prosecuting opportunities for a while. The deal I just mentioned that we inked yesterday, that's the first thing we've done in the region. But we're bringing more and more capital to this part of the world. One thing I've noted is that if you were to go back, say, a half dozen years or maybe even more recently than that, there was a big push from regional GCC capital to get exposure to places like Asia. What I've noticed more recently in the past 12 or 24 months is that interest is now reciprocated. There's a very strong interest from a lot of the major institutions in Asia to come and get exposure to the GCC countries. And so we're playing a role in that thematic, if you like. And so we're turning up to the region with capital both from here, but also capital from abroad. And it's very significant capital. So look, we will continue to forage for opportunities. We have a strong preference for creating, as I mentioned, our own businesses. There's a lot of work involved in doing that. Sometimes those opportunities are on a slow burn, but we do think that's where you can get particularly good value and particularly differentiated deal flow. And so I would just say watch this space, and I expect you'll see more and more action over the coming months and the coming years.